to episode 58 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, and you can find me on Ravelry as mmonska and on Instagram as Stitched in Sweden. It has been about a month since the last time I recorded, and partially that is because of all of the crazy things that happened towards the end of the semester in school and work. I am really gearing up for my thesis project, and so there is just always a lot to do, but also because when I get home from school now it is always so incredibly dark. It's hard to find a time when I can podcast that there's actually enough light to see me and the stuff that I'm working on. So that is also why there has been very few Instagram posts in the last 2 months. So yeah, it's just really dark. Today is Sunday and it is snowing outside, which improves the light situation a bit, and it's also around 10 o'clock, so the light, this is about the lightest part of the day, or maybe in an hour or so it will be the lightest part of the day. So I thought I could start today with my works in progress and show you what I've been doing the past couple weeks or so. I have now only 3 sweaters on the needle, so that is an improvement from last time when I had 4, I think. So let me just jump right in. Also, my chair has gotten incredibly squeaky recently. I think I need to tighten the screws or something, but that's just how it's going to be for now. This is the skein, the last ball of yarn for my test knit that I'm working on currently. This is a test knit for Charlotte of the Charlotte and Gus podcast, and it is a 4 skein, so like 400-gram cardigan in fingering weight yarn. This yarn is from Baronvilla. It's the Everyday Merino, I think. It's the one that is 100% non-superwash merino. And I just started the 4th skein out of 4, so that is good progress since the last time. And this is an oversized cardigan, which I may keep for myself or I may give to someone else. But here it is. The color is called Silky, in case you're interested. And I did place a custom order for that, but it's one of her repeatable colorways. So here is the back, and the bottom hem is rolling up a little bit, but it's kind of like a sort of a broken rib, which is really pretty. I thought about ironing it, actually, to show you, because I really like ironing knitted things, especially, well, only if they're not superwash yarn and they're 100% wool, you can iron them. And it just kind of gives you the feeling of the nice blocked finish project without having to get the whole thing wet and then have to wait for it to dry. Like, especially if you're still working on knitting it, it's a nice thing to be able to do. So here's the back. It's really quite large. I'm knitting the smallest size. There's 3 sizes, and because it does have a lot of ease to it, then the size is kind of flexible. But I just basically need to put the sew the collar stitches together and sew them to the back. And I have picked up the stitches for one of the sleeves, and I'm about to start knitting out for the sleeve, but yeah, it's really not easy to show. And I think that's also part of the reason why I have been, part of contributing to why I have not been podcasting, is that I have had the same 4 projects on the needles, which are all sort of hard to show and don't really, I don't know, they just don't change very much. So I don't think they're that exciting to talk about, but yeah. Anyway, this has a really nice ribbed edging. So this is like the, this part, the neckband of the cardigan, and it just has like a nice solid, but not, it's not hard, but like it just makes it a nice firm edge that feels substantial in some way. And there's the seam on the top for the sleeve. Yeah, I don't know what else to show you. Basically, I'm trying to get this finished by the time that I leave to go back to the US for Christmas for 2 weeks, because well, I would ideally like to have it finished before then, because I don't think that it will make very good plain knitting because it's pretty large, so it's not something that I really want to have in my carry-on bag. But at the same time, it could be pretty easy to knit on because it's just stuck in it. And now I'm just on the sleeves. But hopefully I will be able to get the sleeves started or established enough that I could maybe take it to class tomorrow and work on it a bit. But I haven't been knitting in class the last week and a half because I switched classes. I've been basically with the same group of about 25 people for the past year and a half, and then now I switched back into the class where we're together with another group of people, and I've never knit in that class before, and so I'm just a little bit, I don't know, unsure if I want to knit in that class. But it's a really significant chunk of time, so I might just do it. We'll see. If I do, it will happen tomorrow. Most of the knitting for that, though, has happened in class. I tend to work on that when I can't really concentrate on anything, or when I need to, like, not concentrate on my knitting, but instead concentrate on something else, like listening to a lecture. The second sweater project, which I have been working on this past couple weeks, is the test knit, which I'm doing for Joji Locatelli. This is a pullover pattern, which is full of cables, and it's a lot of fun to work on. It has a very unique construction to it, which I have never done anything like before. But it's also kind of a tricky thing to show and doesn't look like much right now. So and it has a lot of ends and stitches which are on hold and stuff like that. So it's kind of a mess, but I think you can sort of get an idea. Here is the neck hole right here, and right here where my face is the middle of the front of the sweater. Then up here where my fingers are is the back, so then your neck is here, and this is the sleeve. And I decided to make the sleeves long-sleeved. This is a cardigan for, and it's not a cardigan, it's a pullover for my mom, I decided. And so I asked her if she wanted long sleeves or 3/4 like the pattern has, and she decided on long sleeves. So I just pulled this out again and picked up, I had finished the right half front and sleeve, and I just picked up the left back neck part here, and then picked up the stitches along the front, and I'm starting to knit this way for the left front. So this sweater goes a little bit more slowly because the cables are pretty detailed, I would say, or just the fact like cabling and lace at the same time. It's not as fast as stockinette for me, but it still goes pretty fast. And also the yarn is a DK weight yarn, so that's a significant time speeder upper, I guess. But yeah, I really like how this is coming out, and I think my mom is going to like it a lot. I'm knitting this out of dandelion yarns in the Falkland DK, which is a 100% Falkland merino that's 210 meters for 100 grams, and I have 5 100-gram balls of it, and I think I have 3 left, which hopefully will be enough. I bought this yarn at the Stockholm, I think it's called the Sewing, or no, now it's called the Handwork Festival or something, where I went actually at the end of October it was, I think. I picked this up there, and I really like working with it. She is a local dyer in Stockholm, and she puts her, she does have an online shop where you can buy her yarn. But I don't know if she still carries this Falkland DK weight, because I bought this at a significant discount, and it seemed like she just had a couple skeins of it. It wasn't a base that was otherwise in her booth at the festival anyway. But she might have it, I'm just not sure. It's really nice to knit with though, so I hope she does, because I would definitely knit with it in the future. The other project, which I actually did not work on at all since the last time I podcasted, is the sweater that I'm knitting out of the Frida Fuchs Hanami, which is a very pale pink cream yarn with some bright pink and also black speckles. And this is a pullover for myself, which I'm knitting top down in the round, which is not my normal construction, I would say. I tend to knit things in pieces. Okay, the 2 sweaters that I've just shown you are also somehow not in pieces, but those are both test knits, so again, maybe not how I would normally choose to knit a sweater. Anyway, this is the pullover, which I'm sort of basing on a combination of the Gable pattern, which is a pattern by Hannah Fettig, and the Mira pattern by Justina Lokowski. And it's basically just a scoop neck pullover, top down raglan, and I'm still in exactly the same place. You can see this is the part which is like the gable, that has this little twisted rib triangle in the front. And last time I was talking about how I really thought the triangle was off-center. And since then, my friend Venka came over and she's like, show me your pullover. Let's figure it out. So I showed it to her, and she also thinks that it is in the center, but it really doesn't look like it's in the center. But if you follow the center stitch all the way up to the neckband, it is in the middle. But I think what's happening is, for some reason, my knitting is kind of twisted. So I think it's like maybe how the stitches are leaning or something. I haven't really noticed this before, but I think it definitely could happen. And I think it's something that will be solved with blocking. So I'm hoping for that anyway, keeping my fingers crossed. And on this sweater, I don't know if I actually had this last time. I might have done just a tiny bit more, which is that I did some short rows for the back, so that the back of the sweater will be slightly longer than the front, and it will be like a little scoop sort of down the back. Something I did differently in this sweater from what I usually do is that I did the increases and decreases for the waist shaping on the sides of the sweater, and I'm not really sure why I did that. I think I didn't want to have any interruption in the front because I was going to have that little triangle, and I don't know, I just figured it would make a simpler, cleaner design with them on the sides. So I did that for this one, but I did want to talk to you a little bit about how I normally do my waist shaping for sweaters. Even when sweaters don't call for a waist shaping, I tend to do it because I find that I prefer the look of a more fitted sweater, as I'm wearing a really oversized sweater today, but I tend to prefer the fit of a fitted sweater, so I like to add waist shaping even if waist shaping doesn't exist in the pattern. I've had this question a couple of times on Ravelry and in like personal messages, so I thought I would just talk about it now, how I figure out where I want to have the waist shaping and how I want to do it. Basically, I measure at 4 points actually. I measure the upper bust, the full bust, the waist, and then also hips, or the end, like the bottom hem of the sweater, if that is my hips or not. And then I think about how much ease I want to have at each place. So typically at my upper chest, I want to have no ease, and then my upper chest and bust don't really have very much size difference. So it usually works out that if I have 0 ease at my upper bust, I have 0 to like 1 or a ½ inch negative ease at my full bust. And then I usually want to have 2 inches or 1 inch of positive ease around my waist and around 0 at the hips or wherever the bottom of the sweater is, because if you have it positive ease, it kind of looks like a floaty sweater, which is okay for a cardigan, but I really don't like when the bottom of a pullover doesn't sit on my hips. So I calculate from my gauge swatch how many stitches around I'm going to need for each of those places, and then basically if I see what the difference is, so how many stitches I need to add to go from my waist, which is the skinniest part, to my full bust, and then there's the distance in between those two, the vertical distance, so then I know about how many rows I have to make a certain number of increases or decreases depending on if I'm doing top down or bottom up. And I place my increases or decreases on the front side of the cardigan. I always count in 1/4 of the stitches on each from the side seam. So it would be like 1/4 over on each side, and then there's half of the stitches are left in the middle, so that you have the increased lines kind of running sort of a little bit to the outside of your bust points. So that's what I do for the front side. So you basically take half of your total stitches, divide first all of your stitches by 2, and then you have the front and the back. And then for the front, I divide by 4, and I count over that 1/4 of the stitches, and that's where I put my first marker for the first line of increases and decreases. Then I go over half of the front stitches and then place another marker, and then there's 1/4 of the stitches left. So that's for the front. And then on the back, I take the half of the stitches, which are for the back, and I divide by 3. So I do 1/3 over, 1/3, and 1/3, and I put the decrease, increase points at 1/3 points in the back. Not 3 points, but like 1/3 over, and then you have 1/3 in the middle, and then 1/3 to the side. So that's what I do for the placement, and that works out pretty well for me. Sometimes I do more increases or decreases on the back than on the front, or the other way around. Usually I think that I have too much fabric on the back of the sweater compared to the front, so I tend to like decrease more sharply into the waist than on the front. But it's all just a personal preference for how you like your sweater to be fitted. I think it helps to draw a picture of your sweater out on a piece of paper so that you can write the stitch counts for each of the segments, like do a front picture and a back picture so that you can kind of visualize it. But hopefully that helps. The project that I finished this week is something that I finished It's almost been finished for a really long time, and I finally completed it just this week. This is the Redford Pullover, which is a pattern by Julie Hoover that I knit for Thomas. And I knit this in, oops, maybe I'm just hitting my microphone. I knit this in Durirum Natura Ulysses in the Lagoon color, which is a nice, it's a really kind of greeny turquoise, I would say. It is more green than on the screen. And it turned out really nice. I have actually not washed this, but I ironed it, which again is something that I like to do with knits that are in 100% wool, and it gives the same look as having it blocked, and I steamed it with the iron as well. Did I say this is by Julie Hoover? So it's all finished, and I do have the side panels, which are in reverse stockinette stitch, and I did do the exposed seams for along the sides, and then also I did an exposed seam along the neckband, which was really hard to pick up. That's actually what I found the most difficult part of this pattern, was picking up those stitches. I did a tubular bind off, which was suggested for the top neckband, but on the sleeves I actually did a long tail cast on, which I hardly ever do, and then I bound off the stitches and re-picked them up so that I could get this little line here, which was not in the pattern, I don't think. But I had done that in a previous sweater once a long time ago, and I thought it would add to kind of this overall detail of like having a little line like for the sides also, and yeah. So I think it's slightly on the larger side for Thomas, but I think that he will still enjoy wearing it, and that it will be good for extra cold days in the winter. But he has not received it yet, because technically it's a Christmas present, which I should probably wash it today so that I can block it and give it to him dry before I leave this week. He's not coming with me, unfortunately, but he has some exams right before Christmas. So that is basically what I have been knitting on for the past month or so. I have ordered quite a bit of yarn and other sewing things that are waiting for me at my parents' house. Every time that I go back to the States, I tend to stock up a bit on things which I know are from US suppliers. It's just, even though some of them do ship internationally, the shipping costs are quite high, and there's often an import tax as well, which is not a fun surprise when you get a package. So I tend to buy them some things and have them sent to my parents' house so that I can pick them up while I'm there. I have ordered some new bra supplies and bra kits, which I'm really looking forward to, from the Tailor Made shop on... She has an Etsy shop, but she also just has a standalone shop. And I also ordered some yarn from the Hey Sister Yarn Co., which should be there now. So next time I podcast, I will have lots of goodies to show, I'm sure. I'm hoping to finish these sweaters up in time for Christmas. I think that's pretty optimistic, but at the same time, it could be doable. The test knit for Charlotte and Gus the deadline is on December 31st, so I would really need to finish that. And I would really like to do it before I leave, which is in basically 5 days. Yeah. And the Hoagie Locatelli one I would also like to have finished, but I could knit that once I'm in Colorado too. But I would like to finish it so I can leave it there with my mom and not have to send it to her. Then last priority is the Frida Fuchs with the Gable Mira combo, because that one's just for me. And I don't think that I'll bring that one with me to the US just because I have 2 other sweaters that I can bring, which take a lot of space. So that is pretty much it. I have a little bit of sewing to share. I have been doing a little bit of sewing in the last month, some of which has been for underwear, which I'm not going to show because that somehow is more awkward than sharing a bra project. But I will say that I have made the Watson bikini underwear, which are part of the pattern. It's the underwear pattern that comes with the Watson bra, which is a non-underwire bra pattern. And I raised the waist of those a bit, and they fit really well and go nicely with a pair of pants that I wear quite often, which has a slightly higher waist. And I didn't have any underwear that had a higher waist, so it was nice to be able to make a pair. I made 3 pairs. Yeah, 3. Which work really well with those pants. So that is something I do. Underwear are super quick to make, especially compared to bras, but they do take a bit more fabric. I guess depending on what kind of underwear you make. For the kind of underwear I have made so far, they take more fabric than bras do. Yeah, I don't know why this is still a very awkward conversation. Anyway, I made another Marlboro bra, which is a pattern from Orange Lingerie, and this is out of a lace which I bought from the TaylorMade shop, and it's one of the first laces which I ever bought, and I had sort of been saving it because I thought it was really just beautiful, and I wanted to make sure that the bra that I made with it was something that I could wear. And so I sort of waited, like how maybe you have a precious skein of yarn which you don't want to knit with. This was kind of like that, but then I finally got to the point where I was like, I want to wear this, and I think my skills and my the fit of the bra is how I like it, so that I felt confident that I could make a bra which would fit well and I would not mess up this beautiful lace. So it's basically, I've gotten to the point where I do exactly the same thing. I don't have to make any adjustments to the pattern, and this lace is a sort of creamy ivory color with a very pale peachy pink in parts of the flowers, and it has a really nice scallop there, and it's a 3-piece cup, which is basically, this is the pattern that is my go-to pattern, and I like it the best out of all the patterns which I use. I don't love the bottom elastic on this because somehow it's not as the other elastic which I've used in the past is a little bit more firm, and this one is kind of too stretchy. Like it doesn't have enough resistance to it, but it still fits and works. But I'm glad I don't have any more of it. This is actually the end of it that I have. It's fully lined, and it uses a power mesh for the back band, and then for the insides it has just this light bra tulle, which is also kind of a mesh, but it doesn't have elastic. It only has mechanical give to it, I think it's called, not elastic give. But the inside is fully lined and there's no exposed seams. So it's, yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I thought that the orange was maybe going to be a little bit too crazy, but I really like it. And I have an orange clasp on there, the straps, and then this is kind of a little bit paler orange peach color for the side elastic, the armband elastic, I guess. And in person anyway, it really picks up the kind of peachy lace that's in, the peachy flowers which are in the lace. And I use the rose gold findings for the slider and the circle. What are they called? I think they're called rings. Yeah, rings and sliders. Anyway, really like it, and I have been wearing it. So that is that for bra sewing. Like I said, I have some more bra supplies which will be at my parents' house, and I'm planning on bringing some of my sewing stuff back with me so I can make some while I'm there for some friends and family. And I have also a sewing machine in Colorado, so I plan on using that, but I always plan on knitting and sewing a lot more than I do when I'm there because it's kind of a individual activity, and usually I'm in Colorado to visit with people, so I hope that I do a bit anyway. But that is it for now. I will go in a little bit into this week in Stockholm / this month in Stockholm because it has been a little while. Just quickly, like I said, I've been doing a lot of work on my thesis and preparing for upcoming semester of work on that, and I'm also increasing my work hours at my new job, which is now 2 months old, I guess. So it's been pretty busy. It is snowing right now, and it has been for the past day and a half. Yesterday, Thomas and I went out to brunch at a new restaurant which we hadn't been to. We don't really go out that often, but one of my classmates boyfriends was visiting from the Netherlands, and we decided to go out to brunch together. So we went to Palm and Flora, which is a local restaurant. They have 2 locations in Stockholm, and it was delicious. Had a really nice brunch there, and then we decided to do a little bit of shopping. I had a couple things to pick up, and then we ended up stopping for fika, which is Swedish tea or coffee. It's usually coffee. I drink tea because I don't drink coffee, but Swedes really love their coffee, so it's oftentimes a coffee or tea with sometimes a pastry or cake treat. So we stopped at the Culture House. I don't know what, that's what it translates to directly, but it's basically, Kulturhuset, which is like right in downtown Stockholm near the central station. And they have a cafe there which has huge windows on one side so you can look over kind of the city center. So we had a fika there, and then we ended up staying there for a while and then deciding, like, we're still out. It's now really dark because it gets dark at 3/2:30. And it sort of makes it feel like it's time for dinner. So in the end, we walked around a bit more, did a little bit more shopping and looking around. And we walked to a place called Teatern, which is theater. In case you're from Stockholm or visiting, it is on Ringvägen, which is near the Skanstull metro station. And basically you walk into sort of a mall, but then in the middle of it is a place called the theater, and it is a restaurant, basically, or it's several restaurants, probably, I would say 8 or 9 little counters, mostly, which are, I think, inspired mostly by famous Swedish chefs. They probably make the menu or maybe serve things on which have come from these chefs' restaurants. For example, if you've ever heard of Faviken, I think it is, there's a Michelin star restaurant there. It was like the first one in Sweden that was not in one of the 2 main cities, or 3 main cities. And it was really just in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, he has one of the counters there. But they have really nice, it's like sort of fast food, but it's like gourmet fast food, and then the atmosphere is really nice. There's a lot of tables, and there's some, it's called theater because there's like some theater seating, so there's little tables for 2 that like look out in a theater seating, and then the middle part there's more tables on the bottom, and then also the restaurants or food stalls. So we had a really delicious dinner there, and we ended up staying there for a while, and then we went home. So we ended up spending the whole day with them, but it was a very delightful and delicious food tour of Stockholm for the day. So that is what we did yesterday. And the other news this month, I guess, is that Thomas and I got engaged. So you may have seen that on Instagram. But that's really exciting too, obviously. And yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say about that. But yes, not sure when the wedding will be, but we will likely be celebrating in both the US and in Sweden. So that's it for this week, and I would like to podcast again before New Year's, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I hope you have a happy holidays, and I will probably see you in 2017. So until then, happy knitting and happy crafting, and see you then. Bye!